everyone, my name is Chris, and today we are going to be planting onion and celery seeds. Here I have pretty much everything we're going to need in order to start these seeds. I am using a 4-cell container that I believe originally had strawberries in it. I'm going to repurpose it and start celery in it. These all held produce previously. These 3 here had strawberries in it at one time, and this was a lettuce blend. I'm going to repurpose these into the containers that I'm going to plant my onion seeds in. They are perfect for this kind of application because they have these lids. So these lids allow you to close this and kind of create like a humidity dome for the seeds, which will help them sprout and get going a little bit better. When you're starting seeds, it's really important to read the back of the seed packets so you know exactly what they're going to need. My celery here needs to be planted about 1/4 inch deep. It's going to take about 8 to 10 days to germinate. I'm supposed to start it indoors anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks before my last frost. That is an incredibly important date to keep in mind, your last frost. In my region, my estimated last frost is April 15th. So that is estimated to be the last day of the year that we could receive a frost. Now, it's not perfect. Sometimes our last frost is before that. Sometimes our last frost is after that. But in a typical year, we should not receive a frost after April 15th. That's important to keep in mind because some vegetables and fruits, in some cases, they can't handle frost. In the case of celery and onions, they are both cold hardy plants. So they can handle a little bit of cold, not necessarily a ton of cold, but they can handle a little bit of cold. So this celery says 8 to 12 weeks before my last frost. That is about the middle to end of January is 12 weeks before my last frost. Today is January 2nd, so I'm starting this a little bit early. My onion seeds are the same. They want you to start them 8 to 12 weeks before your last frost. So these are supposed to be started at the same time. I'm starting them early because I found that it helps them be a little bit bigger and a little bit more robust when I plant them outside. When I've started them later, and I've started them all the way up until 8 weeks before the last frost, especially the onions, I found that they're not very big when I go to plant them, and they don't get very big for me after I've planted them. It doesn't help sometimes that lately or last year at least, I have been planting them a little bit later than they probably should go out. That has to do with poor planning, which I have definitely fixed this year. I've made a big effort to really plan out my garden this year. I have an entire spreadsheet that lists all of the vegetables I'm planning to plant, when they need to be started, if they need to be started indoors or if they should be direct sown outside, if they're started indoors, when I should start them, and when they should be transplanted outside. I also have exactly where I'm going to plant them outside. So I had to make sure that I had a space for everything that I wanted to plant because I decided I'm going to really increase my garden this year. These containers, these 3 here, I used these last year for spinach and they worked really great. This year I'm going to use them for onions, and I added this as well. I poked holes on the bottom of this one because it didn't have any already. These already come with holes around the sides, so I didn't have to make any adjustments to those to make them work. I'm going to start these by filling them up with potting soil. I'm not using any special potting soil in order to start these. I'm not using seed starting mix or anything like that. You can certainly use seed starting mix, but if you do, make sure you keep in mind that the seed starting mix is sterile. There aren't any nutrients. There isn't really anything in it for the plant to have once it starts growing. When it's a seed like this, it has all of the nutrients it needs to break out of this shell, the seed shell, and get to the surface. Once it gets to that point, it needs to take nutrients from the soil. Seed starting mix doesn't have any nutrients for it to take, so you have to make sure that you fertilize it. A good worm casting mix is really great to add to it. That will give it a lot of really great nutrient boost as it starts to grow. You do want to make sure to mix something in with the seed starting mix. I'm using this. It's Miracle-Gro organic container mixed potting soil. I'm actually not the biggest fan of Miracle-Gro products. I feel like there's so many better options out there than Miracle-Gro, but when I went to look for something, this is really all I found, because not a lot of stores are carrying stuff for seed starting in January. So since this is what I found, this is what I'm using, it will work perfectly fine. I'm going to take my soil and I'm going to fill each one of these containers. Since seeds are pretty fragile, you want to make sure that there are no big pieces like this. You can take that out and just break up any clumps because they're going to have a hard time breaking it up themselves. We have everything filled in. I'm only going to end up planting 4 celery plants, but I'm going to put 2 in each of these cells just in case one of them doesn't germinate. We can always thin them out later. You see here, celery seeds are very, very small. It can be hard to grab only 2. And if you get more than 2, that's fine. Just thin out the extras. I'm going to take just a sprinkle of dirt and cover them, not much. So these seeds are so small, you don't want to cover them a lot, but you do want to just barely cover them. And there we have our celery. On to the onions. I am planning to do 60 onions. That's what I've calculated that I have enough space for. Hopefully we have 60 seeds. This packet from Seeds and Such, it says it's supposed to have 200 seeds. It doesn't. It doesn't have anywhere near 200 seeds. I think that there's 60 in here at least, so we should be good for this year. It's just next year, especially if I want to increase the number of onions I grow next year. If these do really well, then I'll buy them from a different company. I'm just going to sprinkle these over the surface. I'm not really going to count just because they're so hard to count. So I think I have about 13 in here. That should be about 15. Should be about 15 in there. I should have roughly about 70-ish onion seeds in here, which should be good as long as I get a pretty decent germination rate. We will see. Though I think maybe I'll sprinkle a couple more in. I can always find homes for it. So I would say overall this packet had probably a little over 100. So it was short about half, a little less than half what it should have had in it. But it is what it is. I'm gonna do the same thing with these that I did with the celery and just sprinkle some soil on top of them. So I have a spray bottle here, and this is how we're going to water these seeds to start. I'm gonna spray them and make sure to get at least the top part of the soil wet. And I'm using a spray bottle so that I'm not moving all of the soil and the seeds all over the place. If I were to use a watering can or something of a similar sort, it creates a water stream onto this that's just a little too powerful for these delicate little seeds. So while they're seeds and as they become tiny little seedlings, this is going to be my primary method of watering them. I will start bottom watering these once they get a little bigger, but for now, I'm just going to spray them down. I don't know if you can see that the water is kind of compacting the soil a little bit. That's okay, because we're using this spray and not like a douse of water, it's not going to compact it too much to where the seeds aren't going to have a light, fluffy, airy space to germinate. Close each of these up. Okay, here we have our first seeds of 2023. So that's super exciting. Garden season is my absolute favorite season. So the day that I get to start seeds is like one of the best days of the year. It's even better when I get to start even more. But for now, onions and celery are the only thing that we can do. In February, we're going to go ahead and start our peppers. Until then, we're gonna enjoy watching these grow. And I'll show you where I'm gonna keep them. So we are now in what used to be my dining room, but is now basically an extension of my living room. It has my work surface in the corner as well as some of our bookshelves, but they're incredibly messy, so I'm not gonna show them to you right now. And here I have my shelves that I'm going to be starting my seeds on. So I'm just going to set them up here. One nice thing about this spot in particular is that it's actually right above a heater vent. So these seeds are going to stay nice and warm, which is going to help them germinate a little bit faster. I haven't talked about the tray here. So this tray is new to me. I just got it about 3 or 4 days ago in the mail. These are seed starting trays from Bootstrap Farmer. It's the first time that I've used them. Before that, I just used these basic Jiffy trays, but if you've ever used them, you'll know that they're pretty flimsy, and I had some big mishaps last year using these trays. So I wanted something a little bit sturdier for 2023. So I decided to go with trays from Bootstrap Farmer. So far, I am loving them. I love how sturdy they are. I love how thick they are. They're really nice. Plus, they're really colorful, which is always something that I appreciate. I love seeing color. So that's just something that makes it fun. It's completely unnecessary. So here's the rest of the trays that I have and all the colors that came with it. And we're gonna give them a good go this year and see if they stay as sturdy as I think they're going to. Later on, when it's going to be time to start the bulk of our seeds, probably the peppers, and then a month later it'll be tomato time. I'm gonna order some of their 2.5-inch seed starting pots to go with these. I didn't need them for the celery or the onions, so I didn't bother ordering them yet. But I'm going to need them for the peppers and the tomatoes, I think. Previously, I've just been using something super flimsy, and I wanted something a little sturdier that's going to hold up, because I did not want any of my seedlings or plant starts to go flying onto the floor, because I needed to move them, and either the pots or the trays that they're on were too flimsy in order for me to do that. So stick with me throughout the season. We'll see if these trays work. We'll watch our plants grow and see what kind of harvest that we get from them. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can follow along with this season and get all of the updates on how our plants are doing, plus a whole lot more. If you click the bell next to subscribe, you'll get a notification when I upload my next video. Thank you so much for joining me and kicking off the 2023 garden season. I hope to see you next time.